And then we collaborate with academic affairs to incubate programs related to leadership and strategic studies. And I'll talk about a few of those things in a couple of minutes. To assist the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Studies with the knowledge and the understanding and the strategic thinking that's going to enable us to more effectively accomplish our mission, that is developing programs and opportunities that cadets really need in order to be successful after they graduate. Some of these folks you probably recognize. James Terry, retired Lieutenant General, graduated from here in 1978. Jim Krupe is on he graduated here in 1970. He's also a trustee for the university. General Keane did not graduate from here, but he has a lot of knowledge about the Southern Command, South and Central America. General Mixon is a graduate, 1975. He has a lot of experience in the Pacific area. General Garrett is also a Lieutenant General, graduated from here in 81. Lots of experience in Africa as the Commanding General of U.S. Army Africa, and then the Deputy Commanding General of UCOM, and he has NATO experience. And then Brian Keller didn't graduate from the North Georgia, but he is a sort of a global terrorism expert, if you will, working for these agencies and for special operations forces for his whole career. And then we have a CIA, retired CIA person. Patricia is a retired SIS-4, which is equivalent to a Major General in the United States Army. So let's talk about a little bit about the Boars Head Brigade, just to give you an update on that. You know what it looks like, you know how we're organized. But leadership development is the #1 priority for the Boars Head Brigade. And I'm not going to go through this slide because there's a lot of stuff here, but I will say that a few years ago, the executive officer for the Professor of Military Science sat down and drew out on a piece of paper a huge matrix and figured out how many hours cadets spend in the cadet program in leader development training specific to the cadet program. And that over 4 years is about 2,400 hours of practical leadership development that they get over the 4 years that they're here. And so that is built into the cadet program. Very few other programs that we have, academic programs that is, the university have this number of hours that are actually built into their academic programs or their co-curricular programs. So you don't get that if you're not a cadet in the Corps, but if you are an involved other student, civilian student, I'll just say, and you're in a sorority or fraternity and you work part-time and you're in student government association and stuff, then you could probably accumulate that amount of leadership development training. But this is built into the program. If you're going to be a cadet in the Corps, you're going to get 2,400 hours over 4 years of leader development program, of leader development. And of course, you guys know that the cadets really are in charge. Our cadre, both on the Professor of Military Science side and the Commandant of Cadets, they coach, they mentor, they observe, they provide guidance, but they do not lead. The cadets in the Corps lead. Some of the characteristics here, I think you already know. I think I know that Colonel Matthews and Colonel Wright's top priority is academic achievement above everything else. I don't think we need to, what we want to do is grow the Corps of Cadets to 850 because we think that will support the Army's commissioning mission for us. Although we've been very fortunate to exceed the Army's commissioning mission, which I'll show you here in a few minutes, over the last 4 or 5 years. But we, about probably a dozen years ago, we got together and we figured out how many cadets we needed in order to commission 100 cadets every year. And when we figured that out a dozen years ago, it came up to 800, the number came up to 850. And so then the university built bed space for the cadets. You know, they tore down Sermons Hall and they built Patriot Hall and Liberty Hall there. And then they completely redid the inside of Gilliard Hall. So we got 782. We got 782 beds in the Corps of Cadets for the cadets. And the reason why we have 782 beds is because we told the university we need to commission 850. And there's always a certain number of cadets that are commuting back and forth to campus. And so that makes up the other difference. 782 beds and about 60 or 70 commuters. If you haven't been on campus for a while, this is what we refer to as the military village. So you got Liberty Hall, where sermons used to be, kind of in here, and then Patriot Hall and in Gilliard Hall. And that's all the cadets live on the main part of the campus. They're right off the drill field. These are the competencies that we expect that our cadets will achieve as they are moving through the Corps of Cadets. I think it's important to note that, you know, when we recruit cadets out of high school, they already have a certain level of competence in all of these things, because we're recruiting cadets or high school students who have been leaders in high school, who have been team captains, who have been in JROTC programs, JROTC cadet battalion commanders and things like that, or volunteer organizations and things. So they already have a certain level of leadership competence. We're just bringing them to the next level of leadership competence. These are the things that we figure that they'll accumulate while they're here. And I usually tell other audiences that you guys probably already know is that these are the same skills that are in demand by corporate CEOs and stuff all over the place. Frog Week, I think all of you probably are familiar with Frog Week. That's cadet basic training, 6 or 7 days long. We hold it twice a year, once in a fall semester, which really begins in the summer in August, and once in the spring semester, which really begins in the winter in January. And these are the things that the cadets go through during Frog Week. We've had pretty good success rate. Just about, you know, only a few high school students end up, falling out or leaving Frog Week, but the vast majority stay. This is what a typical day now looks like in the Boars Head Brigade, if you didn't know. So they're getting up before 7 o'clock and they're doing PT 3 mornings a week. So they're doing PT Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're doing some sort of leader professional development or inspections and things from 7 to 8. I think, Joe, that this is going to go back to 6:30 this coming semester, so I'll need to change that slide soon. But after
that's correct. Yeah, 6:30 is the start.
Change slide. You're making me change my slide, Joe. I don't know. Okay, and then they do, you know, they're on their own for the rest of the day, as you know, except on Mondays. On Mondays, they do a leadership laboratory, usually out on the drill field, and it's based on small unit light infantry tactics. And then there is quarters and commander's time following dinner, supper. All first semester cadets are required to stand quarters from 2000 to 2330. They have to be in their room studying, or if they get permission to go to the library and study with study groups and things like that, or they can also go some other places. But that quarters is allocated time, quiet time in the residence halls to allow first semester cadets to study. If they pull a 2.5 grade point average at the end of that semester, then they're off quarters. These are the cadet organizations. Many of them were probably here when you were here. Yeah, so I'm not going to go into this too much. And here are some of the recent achievements. I talked about commissioning. And so in the past 3 years, if you don't count, this year is not over yet, because we're going to be commissioning some more cadets in August. End of camp commissioning, those who just finished their summer semester and are commissioning at the end of this summer semester. So it's not done yet. I think we've already commissioned more than 72 plus. Anyway, we're probably going to end up commissioning about 105. 102 to 105 this year. Our mission from the United States Army was 100. And that mission went up a year or two ago to 100 because we were producing 100 plus officers. So the year before that, we produced in 2018-19, we did 103 commissions. In 17 and 18, 105 commissions, and in 16, 17, 111 commissions. And so that 3 years prior to this past year, we commissioned about 320 officers, and this year add another 100 plus. So 420 officers in 4 years. It's an incredible achievement. By the way, 97% of our graduates last year who commissioned received one of their top 3 branch choices in 2019. So that's a few percentage points above the cadet command average. 18 of our 2018 and 19 cadets were ranked in the top 20%. Again, remember, I'm talking about the year before because we haven't finished up this year yet. Top 20% of the nation, and we're distinguished military graduates. We've had cadets earn nationally competitive scholarships here, as you can see. Oops. We won a national award from the Association of the United States Army for the most active company. We won the MacArthur Award again as the top Army ROTC program out of the 6 senior military colleges in the country. Remember, we're the only Army-only senior military college. The other senior military colleges have Navy and Air Force, and then the Marines is connected with the Navy. Our Ranger Challenge team, you guys probably know, placed 3rd in the International Sandhurst competition last year. This year we couldn't go because of COVID, but 3rd internationally. So we were the first place ROTC team out of the 274 ROTC programs, Army ROTC programs in the country, plus all the Air Force ROTC programs and Navy ROTC programs to participate. And also all the academies participate in this thing. So we were 3rd last year, and we were 4th the year before that. Last year, 2 West Point teams beat us. The year before that, Canada beat us, and Sandhurst, England, United Kingdom beat us. We had 2 of our teams selected to attend the Sandhurst competition up at West Point again this year. That got canceled because of COVID, but that would have been the 3rd year in a row that we competed up at Sandhurst. That means we beat all the other senior military colleges, and then there are 8 Army ROTC Ranger Challenge teams that go up there to compete, and then all these other service academy and other services that go there. We've had a lot of great cadets that graduate from here. Just some of the accolades for the Corps. In 2017, we had the number 2 cadet in the country who was from North Forsyth there in Gainesville, and the number 5 cadet in the country from Albany. And that's out of the about 5,700 or so cadets who were seniors and were branched and on the National Order of Merit list. So number 2 in the country, number 5 in the country, and then in the last 10 years or so, we've had number 8, number 1, number 7, etc. Now, we didn't do advanced camp this year because that was canceled because of COVID. So I have no statistics to compare us, but the year before, we sent 122 cadets, not this summer, but the summer, the past year's summer. 21% of those were rated outstanding, and a total of 72 were either rated as outstanding or excellent at the advanced camp 2019. Also that year, we had 31 distinguished military students in addition to those 18 distinguished military graduates that I already talked about. You may or may not know, we have 7 currently serving general officers in the United States Army, starting with General Steve Townsend, who's an 82 graduate, 4-star general. He is the commanding general of U.S. AFRICOM. His chief of staff at U.S. AFRICOM is Major General Bill Gaylor. And General Fogarty is 83, I believe 83 graduate, who is the commanding general of Army Cyber Command. General Calvert commanded 1st Cavalry Division there at Fort Hood, Texas. And then they sent him to the Pentagon to work in the G357 shop of the United States Army. So that's where he is now. And then we've got the 2 identical twin brothers, Gerards. One is the Deputy Commanding General of Army Europe for National Guard. And that's Joe. And the other one is the commanding general of the 25th Infantry Division. Now, if you get selected as a division commander, that is a very prestigious job. So 25th Infantry Division. And then Brigadier General Wilson, within the past 6 months or so, became the director of the Joint Staff of the Georgia National Guard. So he's working directly for the TAG as the Joint Staff guy. If you look at who commanded Operation Inherent Resolve, the guy that stood it up was a North Georgia graduate. And of course, that was the fight against ISIS. That was James Terry. He stood it up and ran it in 2014 and 15. And then some guy came in between that, but then Steve Townsend came in there and commanded it in 2016 and 17. So really when that was stood up, there were 4 commanding generals, and 2 of those were from the University of North Georgia. And then the raid on Osama bin Laden, Operation Neptune Spear in 2011. You may remember that the SEAL team went into Abbottabad and killed Osama bin Laden. The helicopters they flew in on were the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, and that was commanded by a North Georgia graduate. And at the same time, elsewhere in theater, Delta Force was being commanded by another North Georgia graduate. And then we've got the only soldier ever to win the Best Ranger competition 3 times. And that was Captain Rose, who won it in 2014, 17, and 19. And he's the only guy that's ever accomplished that feat. And he was a 2012 graduate of North Georgia. General Milley came to visit us in 2018, 2 years ago, because he heard about how great the Corps cadets here was in Dahlonega. And also, I think Steve Townsend told him to go. So he spoke to the entire Corps. He was very amusing. The Corps cadets really loved it. That was before he became the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, obviously. Of course, we have cadet alumni who are from all walks of life, who were successful in all walks of life. And these are some of the ones that I just stuck up there. Some of the key military education programs that we have to do with modern languages, modern and classical languages. A lot of the languages that we are teaching now are a result of the Corps of Cadets or the Boars Brigade being here on campus. Study abroad programs, I'll talk about a little bit. Our cyber program is definitely the reason why it exists here on our campus is because of the cadets. Although civilian students can take advantage of the cyber education programs that we have. And then there are a few degrees, academic degrees that started up because of the existence of the Corps. So we're leveraging the academic departments, and they're supporting us in making sure that our cadets have the academic as well as co-curricular activities in order to make them the best leaders that we can make them. I threw this up because it's a pretty good quote from General Colin Powell about the importance of learning about other cultures and other people in the world, really here in the United States as well. But we want our graduates to be sensitive to social patterns and beliefs from people from other countries. And to do so, they've got to know about foreign languages and be able to influence and have the relational skills to work effectively in the international domain. Now we have 12 different languages, and now you can major in Chinese, major in Arabic, French, Spanish, and Russian. A few years, maybe a decade ago, you could major in French or Spanish, but you couldn't major in these other languages. You can now minor in these languages, and then we also teach these languages. Now, in the fall of 2019, which is my checkpoint that I use for data and reporting data, and this will change to the fall of 2020 here toward the end of August. But in the fall of 2019, we had 13 cadets majoring in Chinese and 18 majoring in Arabic, and 5 were majoring in Russian, and you can see the rest here. So there's a pretty good interest in foreign languages among our cadets. We also run this Summer Language Institute. Actually, that's the Department of Modern and Classical Languages that runs that, the College of Arts and Letters, but we sort of worked hand in hand with them. So what you can do is, if you're a high school student and you get accepted for admission to North Georgia for the fall, you can come here in the summer prior and take 8 credit hours of a particular language. And so the languages that we offered, I know last year, were these languages. And so what you do is you come here, and it's a residential program. I think it's 5 or 6 weeks long. Starts at the beginning of June, ends not the beginning of June, but after the first week or so of June, goes through the end of July. And all you do all day long is learn a language. And so you really soak it up and you learn it, because you're not also trying to learn, chemistry or, math and stuff, while you're also trying to learn a foreign language. So it allows you to really focus and concentrate on it. And you also get 8 credit hours towards your bachelor's degree. And you also knock out your foreign language requirement. And those who really enjoy it, they keep going and get as proficient as they can in that particular foreign language, which is good for military intelligence and other like cyber and other branches that our cadets may want to pursue, or even intelligence agencies, CIA and things like that. We do have a bachelor's degree and now a master's degree in international affairs. You probably already know. In our bachelor's degree program, we had 12 cadets majoring in international affairs. 12 cadets were in the Middle East concentration, and 13 cadets in European concentration, 9 in Asia, and 3 in Latin America. In 2018-19, 77 of our cadets traveled outside the United States to 23 different countries. And you can see where they went here. So cadet exchange programs, remember, is where we send a cadet in the fall semester or the spring semester to, the Polish Military Academy, let's just say. And our cadet is a cadet in the Polish Military Academy for a semester. And then the next semester, that cadet comes back, and the Polish Military Academy sends us a cadet, and that Polish cadet lives with our cadets and takes courses here at the University of North Georgia. And so we're exposing, through the exchange program, we're exposing our cadets who don't get an opportunity or do not study abroad. At least they're exposed to international cadets who are here in our Corps of Cadets. And then we also have developed international internships opportunities for our cadets. A lot of those are military international internships. And then we sent 22 cadets to international conferences or training, which I'll show you here in a minute. The CULT program went away. The CULT program was a U.S. Army Cadet Command program where they sent about 1,000 cadets every summer who were entering their junior year to very remote places all over the world for 3-week service learning projects or teaching English to indigenous people and stuff. Anyway, that's been defunded, and so we're going to have to do our own CULT program. Last year, we had nobody in the Chinese flagship. So we're the only Army ROTC Chinese flagship program in the country. There are other Chinese flagship programs, but they're not ROTC flagship programs. And so this was another thing that was built for the Corps of Cadets, but civilian students can also participate in it. And when I say that we didn't have any in the Chinese flagship capstone, that's because what it is it's a 5-year program. So you can major in anything. You can major in business management or something like that for 4 years. And you can take Chinese every semester for those 4 years. One semester you go to probably Taiwan or Singapore somewhere to take the Chinese language in a university there. But then your 5th year, you go to a Taiwan university and you enroll in courses there. And the courses are all taught in Mandarin Chinese for that semester. And then you stay and you do an internship in that country that's related to your major. So that's the capstone year. If you played your cards right, then when you come back, you get 2 bachelor's degrees. You get a bachelor's degree in Chinese, you get a bachelor's degree in business management, you get a leadership minor, and plus you have the ability to communicate in Chinese at the superior proficiency level. So we didn't have any in the flagship capstone. We've got a few cadets, I think, in that final year this year. And then also, you know, the university has study abroad programs, and so our cadets take advantage of the study abroad programs as well. We also started a bachelor's degree in strategic and security studies in 2019, or no, I think it was 2018. But in 2019, we had 86 cadets majoring in it. So really, we started this to stimulate or to you know, get cadets, you know, to give cadets the foundation for strategic thinking that they need in order to become officers, but also, you know, it's for cadets who were undecided about what they want to major in. So we gave them this option, but they knew they wanted to commission, you know, so they don't know what they want to major in, but they knew they wanted to commission, you know, or go into a federal agency or something like that. And we said, hey, if you don't know what you want to major in, then take this, strategic and security studies. These are the concentrations that you can take. You can't do this right now. We're planning it, but the rest of these are the concentrations. We have, I mentioned that we have military partners, military academy partners all around the place. And so these are the 11 signed agreements. And so you can see we have an agreement with Poland and Taiwan and Hungary and Argentina and a whole bunch of different other ones there, where we do exchanges or short-term conferences and things like that. So I'm not going to go through these slides in much detail, but the way these are organized, so what I did was I broke the world into, you know, AO theater areas of operation. And so this is the Yukon theater. And so these are the world languages that we teach that are apropos to that theater. And then the Bachelor's of International Affairs, the concentration that's apropos, study abroad programs that the university has there. But these international internships, we coordinated these. We went out and developed these specifically for cadets, although civilian students can also do them as well. So you see that, and then our exchange programs are here. And then I mentioned before that we send cadets on conferences and things all over the place. So for example, we'll send cadets to a Cadet International Week at the Latvia Military Academy. So they'll have a Cadet International Week. They'll invite cadets from other service academies from other countries and stuff to come there. And then we'll send a couple of cadets there. And our cadets are rubbing shoulders with cadets from all kinds of different countries in all kinds of different service academies, and for a week or so, while they learn about their, you know, they interact with each other, and they're accomplishing the goals that we want to accomplish as far as internationalization goes. Pacific area, again, I'll just let you kind of scroll through that real quick. Pacific engagement. Central Command, we don't have a lot of stuff, obviously for obvious reasons, but we do have a study abroad program in Oman for Arabic. You can get a Bachelor's of International Affairs with a Middle East concentration, and then these are the languages that we teach that have to do with that part of the world. Southcom, the Georgia National Guard became a partner with Argentina, just like they're a partner with the Republic of Georgia. And when the Georgia National Guard became a partner, it's the, what do you call it, a Guard Partnership Program or whatever, we decided to hang on with the Georgia Guard. And so now we have a partnership with the Argentinian Military Academy, and they've sent cadets in an exchange program up here to participate in our Corps cadets, and we've sent cadets down there as well. Africa, I think we're going to get away from the South Africa Military Academy thing. It was really the only foothold we had in Africa that was a military program specifically. Obviously, we do have study abroad programs in Morocco, and we tried to get one in Egypt, and then the you know, the Arab Spring started. And so anyway, we're still got some work to do on that. Cyber, I mentioned that that we now have a Center for Cyber Operations Education here at the university, And the reason why that exists, again, is because of the Corps of Cadets, the Boars Brigade. And if you did not know, in 2014, the Army created the first new branch in like 30 years, and that was the cyber branch. And then the first cadet commissioned into the cyber branch from here in 2015. We established this Center for Cyber Operations Education in 2016. We became a member of the Army Leader Development Program, Cyber Leader Development Program. We got designated as a Center of Academic Excellence in Cyber Defense Education by the National Security Agency, the Department of Homeland Security. And then we received grants in 16, 17, 18, and 19. And we also got another grant in 20 that we didn't do to bring 40 high school students here on our campus residential program to take the Certified Ethical Hacker curriculum for 10 days. They learn how to hack into everything, ethically, of course, and try to get them interested in coming to the University of North Georgia for our cyber education programs. And that was completely funded by the NSA and the NSF. They didn't have to pay a dime to do that program. We started a bachelor's degree in cyber in 2018. We did a graduate certificate in 2018. I believe there's a master's degree that's getting on the books here very soon for the cyber program. A point of pride here is that in September through December, the NSA held a code breaker challenge in which over 500 colleges and universities in the United States competed, to include Georgia Tech and Oregon State University. The University of North Georgia placed first by far over all those other colleges and universities that provided teams to compete. Georgia Tech was number 2 and Oregon State was number 3. Back in the fall, we had 82 cadets that were either majoring in computer science or cyber information systems. This is kind of what we're trying to drive at with the cyber education strategy for the cadets, is that we know that they're getting really great leadership development, right? And then if they study cyber and at the same time they take a strategic language and you combine those things, leadership, language, and cyber, you get a guy like this who graduated from here. He majored in computer science. That was a little bit before we started the cyber bachelor's degree program. He minored in Chinese. We sent him over to China a couple of times to learn Chinese in China. And he commissioned into the Army Cyber Branch. And the first place the Army sent him was to the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey to take some kind of master's degree in cyber something or other. And then, of course, he was off to the cyber basic course at Fort Gordon. This is an example of a cadet who took advantage of a lot of these programs that I just talked about. So Mr. Putt here, Lieutenant Putt, was from Virginia, and he was a triple major, international affairs with a Middle East concentration. He majored in Arabic, he majored in history, he studied abroad in Jordan and Oman. We sent him to the NATO Defense College in Rome, Italy for an internship. We also sent him to Romania and Poland. He had scholarships to learn the language. He was an honors program. He was a major, I think, in the Corps of Cadets, distinguished military graduate. And now, he's an infantry officer in the United States Army. And so we've given him, the foundation for strategic thinking. And so even though he's a small unit leader, either a platoon leader or a company commander in an infantry unit, half of his mind is on closing with and destroying the enemy by means of close combat, direct fire battle, and disease and old terrain. But the other half is on the strategic context in which he and his unit find themselves. Another example here is Cadet Bennett, Alexander Bennett, who was from Canton, Georgia, went to Sequoia High School. She came here on the Georgia Military Scholarship, which we have 42 full ride Georgia Military Scholarships every year for somebody who wants to be a soldier in the Georgia Army National Guard, a cadet in the Corps of Cadets at the same time, and then graduate and commission as a lieutenant in the Georgia Army National Guard. Anyway, she majored in Chinese. She did the flagship program, a couple of minors. She studied at Taiwan University and also in Beijing University. She interned in Beijing, and then she commissioned as a second lieutenant. And guess what? She commissioned into the cyber branch in the Georgia Army National Guard. So here she is with a fluency of being able to communicate in Chinese, and she is a cyber lieutenant in the Georgia National Guard. So our military program there, folks, is we're uniquely positioned to leverage the academic strengths of the university. Boy, I got to change that. I think it's 146 or 7 years now. In support, so the cadet program, of course, supports our nation, our state, in so many different ways. So that concludes my presentation, and I will stop sharing, and we can have a discussion, or Phil, whatever it is that you want to do. Joe, I don't know if you wanted to chime in and say anything else.
So I'd like to open it up for questions, and of course, Gerald Cravens and Thrasher and Earl Matthews, you got anything to add? Jim Solomon, please do. Thank you, Keith. Any questions about the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Studies?
Hey, I did a pretty good job. Covered it all.
As always.
I have one question, Jim Melton. Back before DIRT, when Jim Cravens and I graduated in '66, a DMS student almost always was a distinguished military graduate and was guaranteed a commission in the regular Army.
Yeah.
How does that vary with the DMGs? And I don't understand too much about if someone is on the Georgia Military Scholarship, does that automatically mean that upon commissioning that they're going to go into the National Guard as opposed to an active duty regular Army officer?
Yeah, so first of all, the difference between a distinguished military student and a distinguished military graduate. Distinguished military students are selected, and Joe, jump in here if I'm wrong. They're selected among the student population at the university. And so they're in the top half of their class and, all these other criteria. But the distinguished military graduates are compared to all the other cadets across the country, and they're in the top 20% of all the cadets across the country. So distinguished military students just here at the university, designated by the professor of military science. Distinguished military graduates, top 20% nationwide. If you're a distinguished military graduate, then you commission, probably you get your choice of branch, but now they've changed the branch selection process. Now there's going to be a talent management process. So I don't know how that's going to work into this thing, but you get regular Army. If you accepted a Georgia military scholarship, then you are going into the Georgia Army National Guard as a lieutenant when you graduate. So you're making that commitment right up front. And it doesn't matter if you're distinguished, and we have distinguished military graduates who are Georgia military scholarship recipients who then go into the Georgia Army National Guard. And by the way, the Georgia Army National Guard is one of the best state National Guards in the country because of the number of officers that come out of the University of North Georgia, which is kind of like the Georgia National Guard's West Point.
Thank you.
Keith, I have a question.
Hey, Don.
You might have said it. What is the Cadet Command Commission requirement for North Georgia now?
It's 100. It's 100, and I think it's going to 105 in a year or two. Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. Something like that, but it's 100 right now. I think it's 100 this year.
Yeah, Keith, you're right. Josh was talking to me, Colonel Wright was talking to me, mentioning that, for your success, we're going to reward you with more people. So the challenges is probably going to go up to 105, say, in the next 2 years if we continue to go at this growth. It's supposed to also equate to coming back from Cadet Command a certain amount of resources if you commission more cadets. So we'll see if the resources match, the increase.
Hey, Keith, Robin Stewart, I got a question.
Hey, Robin.
Hey, you mentioned the bed space we have available for cadets. What was that again? 750-ish?
782 beds.
782. Now, I know that we have civilians, I think, living in the top floor of Patriot.
Yeah, if we can't fill all the beds, then the commandant gives the civilian students however many beds that we can't fill, but the civilian students are only on one, they're confined, not confined, but they're limited.
Understand. So what I'm really asking is bed space is really not an issue for incoming fall or enrollment, right?
Joe can answer that better than I can. I'm going to guess no.
Okay.
No, not at all. So the number of cadets. See, I would love to have a waiting list for cadets, but as far as I know from history, and Keith can correct me, we've never had a waiting list. So I would love to be, because we are the only senior military college that does not have a waiting list to get into the Corps cadets. So as competition, it would be nice to have, you want the best leader, you want the best person academically, you want the best athletes to go to North Georgia. And right now, we don't have the pressure of people having to wait to get into North Georgia. I still have beds available, is the bottom line. So, but I would love to get to that point. When you talk about the Corps Advisory Council and sort of the strategic vision, I would love to have 5 years from now where you've got a waiting list to work off of, and you've got full capacity in the military village, and I don't have to give back any beds back to the civilian side to house students. I have 100% occupancy, and then I would have to go, and I know senior cadets would love this problem, where I'd have to go to the senior cadets and say, hey, a few of you are going to have to be military commuters now because we don't have enough bed space. They would love to hear that. But right now, I have to try to keep as many cadets inside those dorms as possible. And that's why we have the Corps participation policy to retain as many cadets as possible inside those barracks. Also for the leadership. If you're not present in the barracks, you're really not present for leadership training and experience either. And that's what the Citadel experienced the last 2 years. They changed their participation policy to increase the amount of semesters you have to be in the Corps cadets on campus, to increase the amount of leadership hours, contact hours that they get in the Corps in residence. So.
Okay. Well, thanks, Joe. Hopefully I can send you about 100 more from Alabama here.
I would love to.
This is Barry Barr. You mentioned retention. What is our retention rate? What type percentages do we bring in Frog Week that end up graduating?
Keith, do you want to attack that one first?
Yeah, I want to say that we were bringing in somewhere around 300 cadets a year a few years ago. And the number of commissions doesn't equal the total number of graduates, because we have some who graduate from the Corps cadets who don't commission. And so I think we had around 120 or 125 graduates from the Corps and I'm sorry, I don't have the percentages, out of 300 or so that start. So it's somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, so the figure I'm trying to work with is about a 3-to-1 ratio. It takes 3 freshman cadets to equal 1 graduate. That's it, graduate or commissionee. Now that's not proven in hard data yet. That's just what I'm working with. This next year is kind of hard to get the same data that we got last year, because I think there's a COVID-19 factor right now that people are hesitant to go back to college. There's going to be some cadets. I got a cadet this week who for the first time has said, hey, I don't think I'm coming back in the fall because I'm so worried about COVID-19. I don't think I'm going to be safe on campus. So that's my first person to come back and really say that. The rest of them has been financial situations, and we've been able to help with that. But with that, I'm looking at, as we crunch the data, to say, I'm thinking 300 cadets, right? 300 freshmen first semester cadets is about what we need to sustain every year to meet the commissioning requirement and to get more than 125 to graduate after 8 semesters. I would love to have it at 850 to graduate at 8 semesters.
I would say,
semesters, yeah. semesters are a little bit harder to graduate at. I think several of us here were under the quarter system. And as I looked at the quarter system, it seems like you could take more classes in 1 year with 3 quarters than you can with 2 semesters. So I'm seeing, I don't have the exact percentage yet. I'm trying to get that number of how many cadets actually graduate or commission at 9 semesters instead of 8 semesters. You know, where's that gap in there where you're not just a 4-year, you're 4.5. And what do we do to make sure that they graduate at that 4.5-year mark when we track that? And they don't get lost to saying they didn't graduate because they didn't graduate in 4. Well, yeah, they did. We just got to change our stat a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's a long answer to say I don't have a good number yet.
We fixed that piece, Joe. But what I was going to say is that, look, we have a goal, a long-range goal that by 2030, 75% of our new cadets who start graduate, whether they graduate after completing 8 semesters in the Corps and then going another, 2 more semesters, 1 more semester, doesn't really matter. We've accounted for that problem already in IT by what we said was, if you completed military science 4,000, whatever it is, your second semester, your 4,000, then you completed the Corps. And then they're tracking who graduates after that as well. So that's taken care of. But we want to get to 75% graduate.
Other questions?
I have a question. I don't know if this is the right area to ask it, but I'm curious as to if anybody on this team or if Joe maybe has any input or advice on JROTC establishments in high schools. I know at one point in time, they've significantly reduced the new programs. Does anybody know if that's on the mend? Are they increasing? Is Cadet Command reaching out? Who's the point of contact? Does anybody know how to make that happen?
The point of contact here would be Colonel Wright, Josh Wright, the professor of military science, because that comes through Cadet Command if we're talking about an Army JROTC program. So, for example, when we established a JROTC program in Lumpkin County High School, that was a former professor of military science, Butch Teston, and I got that thing going. And then there were a couple of others as well from other professors of military science. So that, and I can't answer the question as to whether, the number is shrinking or is just staying the same, or if they're trying to grow JROTC programs. I don't know.
Thank you.
You want one up there in Union County?
I think we desperately need one. I think we've got a lot of great kids. We've got a huge retirement organization here. Jerry Aiken at one time, and I don't know what happened to General Aiken, but he was the lead for that for quite some time. So yes, I think so. I think it would be a great feeder for University of North Georgia.
Yeah, now you got a retired Command Sergeant Major up there working, infantry Command Sergeant Major working in Union County High School, Art McCann, who would be just great.
Yeah, I'm sure he knows the status. I'm sure he's fighting for it too. I just haven't spoke with him yet. I'll do that. Thank you.
Let me just add a little something. This is General Thrasher. Back, at least when I was in Cadet Command, all the junior ROTC, Army junior ROTC programs are mandated by Congress. So if you wanted to start a new program, an old program would have to kind of die, and a lot of these high schools would drop programs because of participation or just didn't want to deal with it anymore. But it is, you need to get your name on the list, and that's where you got to start through the PMS, Colonel Wright.
Joe, you mentioned that North Georgia is the only senior military college without a waiting list. Is there anything that the CAC can do to help rectify that problem?
Well, sir, as part of the, the strategic vision is the help in Mike Ivey and the recruiting message. the recruiting network, building the legacy network of recruiters, of alumni across the United States, so that we can, we can continue to send the message and tell our story as alumni to the high schools, and be a representative of North Georgia. I would love that every high school in the United States has a North Georgia representative to give that scholarship, that check, that notification to that student and their parents, just like an athlete, that says, hey, congratulations, you're now going to the University of North Georgia's Corps of Cadets, and here you go. ROTC, I saw them do this last year or 2 years ago in Hawaii. They went to a school, a high school senior, graduated, got accepted to the University of Hawaii as that Army ROTC scholarship recipient, and they write that big old check. And that entire audience, and we're talking 2,000 Hawaiians, saw that number of how much money the Army is going to give that cadet over 4 years for an Army ROTC scholarship. And I could tell they're all looking at their kid going, hey, I think you need to get one of those too. But that's what I mean by, and it's that personal touch. I don't think, no matter how many billboards we have, we got one in Gainesville now for the University of North Georgia, how much advertising we do, I think that personal touch, at the high school level, reaching out to those parents, some that are alumni, but most that are not alumni that have heard about North Georgia, but don't really know about it until you or I talk to them about our experience and invite them into the picture. So Mike Ivey, when he briefed you all on the Legacy Network idea, I think this is a very powerful way to start getting more cadets from more places than what we usually recruit from, which is, Northern Georgia. In the state of Georgia, it's a vast majority of our cadets. But thanks for the question, sir.
One other thing that CAC might be able to help with, I don't know, is that we've got an initiative going where we're trying to ask and see if the university will pay for the room and board for Army ROTC scholarship recipients, because we're getting out-competed. We're losing in competition to some of the other senior military colleges, but also other Army ROTC programs that just give free room and board if you got an Army ROTC scholarship. And that's about $10,000 a person. I'm not sure how much of a dent that would make in getting us a waiting list, but it would certainly help. But now with the budget cuts, that doesn't look likely for the next several years that the university will provide room and board for ROTC scholarship recipients.
Yeah, and this is the discussion, and I would, again, Mike Ivey spearheaded the discussion and the fact paper on how we could build a Army ROTC supplement scholarship. So instead of a partial scholarship, you would get 100% scholarship from North Georgia. That's what our senior military colleges are doing. And I know this year, as a fact, 3 cadets that wanted to go to North Georgia ended up going to Norwich, because Norwich said, yes, you have an ROTC scholarship? Hey, we're going to give you free room and board. Now you've got 100% scholarship to come to Norwich. And we don't have the finances to do that right now. And so I think, yes, if definitely ask Mike those questions when he talks to you all. And we are in a standstill, true, with the budget changes and 11% loss in budget by the state. We're kind of at a standstill with this proposition.
Okay, other questions or CAC members and officers, any other comments you'd like to make? Well, Keith, thank you very much. Linda, I see you come on board. You have a question?
Sorry, I was just turning my camera back on.
Okay, all right. Thanks everybody for joining us. Keith, thanks for the briefing. I appreciate that. We all do.
I see opportunity.
Good to see you all. Thank you all for what you're going to do for the Corps and for the Corps Advisory Council. We're all excited about the future. And we will see most of you tomorrow at noon for a briefing from Jeff Tarnowski, Vice President of Advancement, and Amanda Harden, who's the Chief Operating Officer of the UNG Foundation. You'll learn more about the foundation and the back end of the advancement team at the university. So unless there's anything else, we'll sign out, and thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.